Hello, everyone. Let's just take a look at the second set of Kant review questions. These questions don't cover everything in the reading, obviously, but they are the things that I think maybe are the most important from these couple of readings, at least for me. Number one, explain the difference between a hypothetical and a categorical imperative. I think, as I said in class, this is like an inevitable question for any study of Kant's morality. This distinction. What is common to them is that they're both imperatives. That is, orders or commands. Do this, don't do that. What distinguishes a hypothetical imperative is that there's always a condition, an if. If you want this, then you must do that. The implication being with the if that maybe you don't want this, and in that case, you don't have to do that. What would be an everyday example? If you want to reduce your risk of tripping when you walk down the street, tie your shoes. People are constantly telling me that. And I'm constantly saying that that's the way the cool kids wear them, meaning I don't care. I'm willing to take the risk, sometimes I don't feel like tying my shoes. And it's like, okay, well, you don't need to tie your shoes, right? If you don't really care about tripping. If you want to make sure that your soft-boiled egg comes out right, let's set the timer. But if you don't care, then don't set the time. The whole idea of the hypothetical imperative is that they're optional because they're dependent upon our wishes, our desires, our wants. And if we don't particularly care about an outcome, there's no reason to do the thing to ensure the outcome. Right? That's the hypothetical imperative. The important thing to remember is that it's conditional, as opposed to the categorical imperative, which is unconditional. The categorical imperative has no if. The categorical imperative just says do this or do that. And as we saw in Kant, that the hypothetical imperatives have no moral relevance, really. It's only categorical imperatives that do, and they are unconditional. There's no if. The implication being that even if you don't want to do or not do the thing, you must. And that's so important for Kant's idea of morality, that idea of necessity and obligation and duty. Number two, what does it mean for something to have subjective value? Well, something has subjective value if a subject, and let's call you and me and any conscious being a subject, gives it value. My go-to example in class was the hamburger. Maybe I think about hamburgers too much because, like everyone else, I think about lunch. The hamburger has subjective value, meaning I, a subject, subjectively value it, and that's what gives it its value. And its value is conditional on that want or wish or need or desire that I have, hunger and liking of hamburgers. If that's taken away, the hamburger has no value because it has no intrinsic value. It has only a relative value. So I would say subjective value and relative value mean the same thing. And that is, it has value, the hamburger, relative to my wants and desires, but only relative to them. Number three, what does it mean for something to have objective value? Well, something that has objective value is valuable in and of itself. So that it's having value is independent of anyone valuing it, unlike the hamburger. It is opposed to subjective or relative value. So what does it mean for something to have objective value? Well, in Kant's terminology, it is an end in itself. It's not an end for somebody else because they desire it. It is an end in itself. It is intrinsically worthy, intrinsically valuable. Number four, what does Kant say does, in fact, have objective value? Well, I think when I wrote this, I was thinking only of persons. And in terms of the second set of readings about the second categorical imperative, the answer is persons. A person has objective value. I might say that now by saying perhaps the moral law for Kant has objective value. And that is valuable in and of itself, which I think would be a correct answer. But explain how this relates to the second version of the categorical imperative. Well, there we're really talking about persons having objective value. His idea of persons is that, let's use a fancy word and say ontologically, that is, having to do with their fundamental manner of being, like what kind of being they are, that the person differs from everything else in the world. Because everything else in the world qualifies as a thing, an object, whereas a person is not an object. A person is a person. And the person, unlike the object, has intrinsic objective value. Its value does not depend on anyone valuing it. Kant would say it has value in and of itself, and therefore demands respect. Therefore represents a limit to everyone's freedom of action, because you can employ a thing legitimately as a means to one of your ends, like writing with a pen or using a car to get from place to place. But a person can't be used like that because it's an end in itself and should never be used as a mere means, merely, fully, only as a means to anybody's end. So the idea that the person is intrinsically valuable and has objective value, therefore, is absolutely crucial to the second version of the categorical imperative, which explicitly says, always, with regarding it to yourself or others, treat a person as an end in themselves, never as a mere means to an end. Never exploit them. That would be to disrespect them. That would be to fail to recognize their objective intrinsic value. So the existence of persons as beings of intrinsic or objective value is the whole basis for the second version of the categorical imperative.